anyway, let me read through this. Thank you so much for your valuable feedback since launch. In this manifesto, we'd like to summarize that the changes that we plan to make in the near future. Note that these are still in early discussion and haven't been implemented yet, so the plans may change over the next few days. For speed, we'll likely apply these changes in patches as soon as they're ready, rather than allowing them to be deployed all at once. We're going to apply these in patches as soon as they're ready, rather than delaying them to be deployed all at once. As you travel into the mist, so this is about monster damage. As you travel into the mist, the life and damage become higher. Players have commented that they feel the monsters become too dangerous deep in the encounters. The monster damage bonus scale up to 30% at the absolute most. We're reviewing all the Delirium monsters and skills to find that any are overtuned, and we'll be making adjustments to any that might be dealing disproportionate damage. Do you think they just test in white maps? Do you think that's what happens? I'm a little bit worried that they aren't aware that people have damage mods on maps. Because, like, they're already so dangerous monsters. I'm just a little jarred, I guess. Anyway, let's hope that gets retuned a lot. Reward bar. When you touch the mirror Delirium, a random reward is chosen for the encounter. When you kill a certain number of monsters, you earn an additional instance of that reward type that drops when the encounter finishes. Currently, the rate which the reward bar fills up is not proportional to the depth of the monsters you're fighting. Monsters deeper in the mist do not fill it up faster. We felt this was appropriate for release because the other rewards that the League runs, such as cluster duels, delirium orbs, splinters, and the extremely high quantity and rarity bonuses, do all encourage you to kill as many monsters as possible, which promised clearing as deep as you can. We were considering having the reward bar fill up more quickly as you kill deeper monsters, but we didn't have the change ready in time for launch. We plan to make this change in the near future. At the time of publishing, we just found an issue where in many areas, Delirium monsters and spawners do not appear when extremely deep in the mist. But isn't this going to be really bad too though? Wouldn't that encourage us to spawn mobs, kite them to the end, and then kill them? Paralyzing, wasting, eroding, diluting touch debuffs. We're reducing the length of these debuffs so that they're substantially shorter, which will also greatly reduce the quantity that accumulates on you. It's going to be today, 3.10c. Is that in already? Monster on-death effects. Currently, there's a random chance for individual Delirium monsters to have mods that cause on-death effects. We're internally experimenting with moving these to be pack-based, so that there's more variance in when you encounter them. My pulse is racing. All I'm thinking right now is now there's not going to be one random monster exploding on me. There's going to be an entire pack. Now I can't even run away from them anymore. Anyway, rebalancing them around this and improving how they're signaled. For those interested in why we use on-death effects, me, and content like this is because they're a viable way of making monsters that are killed instantly have an effect on players, and they aren't trivialized by clear speed. Few to no other mods we can put on these monsters make any difference normally because they are eradicated by powerful builds in seconds. We're going to be toning these down either way. I mean, the thing is, I'm like sitting here trying to think, like, how do they fix it? Like, it's just a core problem with the game. Like, they're not wrong. What can they do? What can they do to make monsters dangerous? Not just Delirium, what can they do to make monsters dangerous in Path of Exile without ruining it for more casual players? If they make it so that it's difficult for me, then nobody can play the game, right? Like, for example, if you needed, like, let's say that you needed, lastly, my anime weapon build to be able to kill. Then you're ruining so many builds. And you're pigeonholing people into builds that they don't run, right? Like, the thing is, like, it is really difficult. It is really difficult to scale. How do you do that? The problem is I have a lot of time in the game and I don't understand. I don't actually have an answer either. Like, I hate on death effects with a passion. But how do they make the game harder without ruining it for other people? Or do they just accept that the top 5% is always going to steamroll the game? Right? Like, for example, I would probably be in favor of something like just adding 500% life. Right? But they've sort of done that with Aziri. Aziri is really hard right now. But like, Delirium in particular is worse than anything we've seen before, I think. It's a crazy amount of undeath effects. I feel like, at least for me, the problem with Delirium is, first of all, I can't see anything, right? But anyway, let's finish reading this before we like discuss it. Let's finish reading it. Delirium alongside previous content. Delirium increases the difficulty and reward of all other Path of Exile content. Wait, really? And reward? However, players have reported that it doesn't feel worthwhile to run past content under the effects of Delirium because you lose precious time dealing with the content's overheads. We plan to add a bonus time to the Delirium event when you trigger past content in order to make up for this. The amount of bonus time will vary from content to make it fair. Delirium item drop vacuuming. We totally understand the feedback that the Delirium makes you want to go fast and not pick up items, requiring you to backtrack to grab anything. There have been requests to accumulate all the items that would drop and instead drop them at the end of the encounter. This is not how we want the game to be played, and we have only done it in the past when it would have been impossible to access the item afterwards, if they're in an incursion area or in a darkness during delve. While it's tempting to take every opportunity to vacuum up all the items that drop and present them to you in one go, that's not how the core game loop of action ARPG should function. I agree. In addition, even if we wanted to, it's not really even practical to vacuum entire maps up and drop them in one place. During our internal testing before release, we increased the length of time that Delirium encounters last so that players have extra time. Item filters up. Yeah, I'm gonna read the entire thing before commenting. I have a lot to comment on that. Death meter. Because the distance from the start matters quite a lot from the relative difficulty of the monsters. Chances are that additional mods are spawned and the level increased item drops already they receive. We're considering adding an indicator in the user interface which shows the relative difficulty. Good. Performance. It looks like we broke something with 3.10. We don't know what it is yet, but we are investigating and we'll fix it. This is a high priority and we're really sorry that it was released like that. We were unaware of the issue on our internal testing, but became quickly aware of it upon launch. Annoyingly, it affects some computers users a lot more than others. We now have a couple of computers in the office that reliably reproduce the problems, so we're using those to debug it. Visibility. We have various ideas to improve visibility, such as investigating, improving color grading, adding clear effects to monsters with mods, and improving skill effects and so on. We don't know exactly which set of experiments will be deployed yet, but we do want to make it easier to see what's going on. Expect to see improvements soon. Make the end Delirium button bindable. Absolutely. You'll be able to turn it on and choose a key to bind it in the option. Yeah, a lot of people have just stopped doing Delirium. But aside from just like, there's a couple of reasons why I want to do Delirium, right? I want to do Delirium because A, it's funny for our viewers, right? It's a cool mechanic to watch and it's really, really cool rewards. So I want the cluster jewels. I want to try to entertain my viewers. So I generally prefer to do the mechanic as much as I can. Because something whenever I've watched things, I always hate it when racers end up skipping the mechanic. I think it's so much more fun. Sometimes you just have to. But I think it's a lot more fun to do the mechanic if you can. And all the endgame racers stopped doing Delirium. This just shows how difficult the mechanic is. So I don't even think it's all about the difficulty. I think it's all about there's very low visibility. I can barely see what's going on. I don't see what's going on. And if you can, that's great. But I can't. I struggle seeing what's going on. But the league itself is really fun. I don't even mind the damage and the scaling and stuff of them. The main problem for me is obviously the undeath effects of the thing is they say here that they feel like the only way that's what they're saying, right? They feel like few to no other mods we can put on these monsters make any difference normally. But like deep in the, like right now, they're so tanky when you go deep. Like it's so dangerous, even without death effects. And I think the main problem with the Delirium item drop vacuuming, the main problem, and at least speaking for myself, the main problem with looting in this league is that backtracking equals death. Like for me, I don't feel like the problem with looting is the fact that I'm not gonna have time or gonna run out. But the problem is if I see an alchemy drop behind me, I am so scared of going back to pick that up. The biggest thing the manifesto didn't touch on is not the time, it's the risk of dying to pick up that alch. Yeah. The problem is that if you clear, everything explodes. You have to clear and then like wait 5 seconds. I do that all the time. It's time that is my problem. Right. So I'm usually clearing the entire map. So maybe if you're clearing very slowly, then you don't have this issue. So maybe that's the solution. Maybe I should just clear that slowly. But like you said, then you're having a problem with time. So maybe like different types of players are having different issues. So that if somebody that is playing like a slower build or a clunky build, like for example, Righteous Fire, might have the problem like sure they can loot, but they might not be able to push. Something that's like very interesting that's different in this than the rest is that on things like volatiles, is it volatiles? What is it that gets, there's so many that on death effects and delve and stuff that gets removed when you remove the corpse. However, in this, you can't remove the corpse. Not even on kill. They've made it so that there's no way for us to remove the corpse. So Shatter doesn't do anything, and so does the Explosion Chest or Impulsa, which is very different. No, like no like destroys corpses. Pyre, nothing does it. Didn't know Shatter didn't work on the Delirium mobs. Why because fuck you, that's why? Yeah, pretty much. So it's a frustrating league for a lot of people. But at least they're like working on it. I don't really feel like this correctly addresses all the issues though.